Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the live HockeyBuzzcast. Now, to Russ with something.
All right, let's talk a smidgen here of NFL. I'm going to give an update on this Ravens game. Even Eck, I think, will be appalled. Right now, Eck, there's 20 guys on the COVID list. 7 of them are starters. 3 more expected to be added. They still had positive tests as of yesterday. They're still thinking about playing tomorrow, where this game has already been preempted twice.
Yeah.
And there's snow in the forecast for when they're supposed to fly into Pittsburgh tomorrow. Tell me why they're playing this game again.
Well, like I said to you, hey, snow games are always fun.
Yeah, but all right, so
especially if you got 104-degree fever and COVID.
Let's go now to yesterday's game, which probably nobody watched, with the Saints and Broncos, where they lost all 4 quarterbacks.
Okay, let me because we unfortunately got that game on our Fox broadcast, and I just as somebody who likes to watch train wrecks, I wanted to watch this game just for a little bit to see how bad it was. And this guy Hinton, who was the quarterback, was a quarterback at Wake Forest, and I think he was converted to a wide receiver in his senior year, so he didn't even play quarterback as a senior in college, and he was horrible. I mean, he was so bad. But this is the thing that I found out after the fact that is totally and utterly ridiculous. The NFL refused to move this game from Sunday to Monday. And why did the Broncos want this game moved from Sunday to Monday? Because the window in terms of the negative tests for the 4 quarterbacks would have passed on Monday, and all of them are negative right now. And if they would have pushed the game to Monday, then they would have had Drew Lock or one of the quarterbacks. But they said because that would affect the game, we don't care about that. It's the rate of infection. If people keep getting infected, then we'll move the game forward. It's so friggin' stupid.
Well, the other thing is, and so to finish that one up, they did say that today they don't have any positives, so that would have been a correct move. And Eck, this is why, some fans were like, well, they deserve to play with no quarterback because, their guy didn't wear a mask or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I get what you're saying. But the idea is if a league's plan is destined to fail, you can't really hold the players responsible for a bad plan. And that's what it is. This whole plan is bad. That's why I wrote an article saying they should stop the league for 2 weeks now and then regroup and come back. And this is just feeding into the start of that. But at the end of the day, right now, this other game is going to be a problem. They handed the Saints a win. They probably killed the Broncos' playoff chances with that game.
Yeah.
And this season's totally marred. And the Jets are perfect 0-11, so all is well.
All is well. Perfect 0-11. Man. Well, if the feeling is definitely that if they stop for 2 weeks, they'll never start again, right? That's like.
Yeah, but you can, and even if you have to do it in a bubble, even if they say, you know what, we've decided now we're going to do it at 2 locations and we're going to play 4 times a week. I mean, they can do it. There's a way.
Russ, they're
not
really
do it, and they should do it.
They're not going to do it.
I'll tell you what, Mike, they are in danger of.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying
they blow up on them.
They are going to fight through until they can't fight through because it's the almighty dollar. They're getting.
I know, but you know what? It's funny. The virus doesn't care how many dollars you throw at it.
I get that.
It is the owners. I know it's the expertise behind it, but it's almost too hard of a fight for any league to fight right now.
I agree.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because not funny, but I'm on a chat group locally here, and there's the whole controversy in our area is about the kids, and about whether they should go to school or not, and whether they should be homeschooled or whether they should be, remotely schooled, which I think is absolutely what they should be doing. Beyond doubt, this doesn't make any sense not to do it. I know it's hard. I know it sucks. It's not the best thing, but still, come on. But there's a forum, where yesterday they were holding, some teachers are freaking out, and I get it in some situations because people are. If you don't work at home and you've got kids younger kids, like the really small kids are going to school, but we're talking about the high school and the older school kids. They should be held back. They should just be held back to do virtual learning. The virtual learning is amazing. These kids are not. It's not like these kids aren't used to working in front of computers. It's not like a big deal to them at all. It's not fun, but it's safe. And yet, their whole argument is, well, kids don't, transmit disease. The kids don't get the disease. And it's just like this.
Well, no, they get the disease. They don't get killed by the disease.
Right, but they do transmit the disease. They do spread it around, and the reason that more kids haven't spread, there aren't there aren't statistics of many kids spreading to teachers. Well, think about that for a second. Most of that's because most of the nation has been virtual all year, and it's like, so yesterday they hold a rally to try to get all the parents who want the teachers, or all the parents who are trying to force the school board to send them back. Right? They decide they put out there they're holding a rally at the high school. You have to be in your cars. Okay. So just think about that for a second. Just think about the concept. They're socially distanced rally to say that kids should go back to school. I'm just sitting there and saying, well, yeah, it's good that they're socially distancing, but don't they get the point here? Don't they get the idea that, if they can't themselves go to the school and just be there, how do they expect to send their kids going there?
It's a fair point. We got one more thing, So with that Tyson exhibition the other day with Roy Jones, here's an interesting thing. So however much money he fleeced out of people to see a aging boxer fight, a no rules fight, a no win fight, a not scored fight is ridiculous. He apparently had to lose 140 pounds just to be able to come in at some sort of weight. And everybody's like, oh, he looks great. He can move and he can do this. And he's just a little older than Foreman. Except here's the difference. This was a WBO fight. And the WBO said, well, we're not going to have judges there, so there's no winner or no loser.
Right.
But if it was a real WBO fight, they use WADA testing.
Oh, man.
So they would drug test him, and he would fail in a minute. He already admitted after the fight that he smoked pot before the fight, which is fine, but he is going to have to adhere to rules if he actually wanted to fight for a living, UFC included. He can't do that. People don't realize Mike Tyson can't do that. And so for people that think he could fight, even his 240 is not even the minimum weight anymore for a heavyweight. Heavyweights are around 249 now, and then they have super heavyweights too. So even now, looking as good as he looks, that's like a minimum weight for a heavyweight. He's going to get killed if he goes in a ring with anybody who could box. He's
not going to do. If he does it, he's stupid. I just have to say one more thing about that because I fell asleep watching it. That's how bored I was.
I saw highlights.
Yeah. I watched one of the preliminary bouts, and if so, I would like to know who told former NBA player Nate Robinson to go into the boxing ring. He got destroyed by some guy named, I think it was Jake Paul.
Yeah, apparently he's some YouTuber.
Jake Paul's a very, very, very popular YouTuber.
Well, guess what, though? If he goes up against Evander Kane, he will get the snot knocked out of him.
Yeah.
He'd be an idiot to do that.
Nate Robinson got hit with a right hand and went down like a sack of wet cement.
Yeah, because he's probably never been hit in his life.
Oh my God, it was embarrassing. So
but you don't want to fight a hockey player. You don't.
No.
I mean, again, whoever this YouTuber guy is that has some boxing talent, and I don't even want to say it's talent because he probably just spars a little. He'll get killed.
He's a punk. I've seen his stuff. It's the most ridiculous stuff in the world.
I want to see Conor McGregor against Jake Paul.
It wouldn't even last 10 seconds.
Nope.
All right, let's get going here.
All
right. We are the 30th of November.
Yes.
Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, November 30th, 2020.
I'm Michael Agello, and we're one day away from entering the last month of 2020, and thank God.
I'm Russ Cohen, and I've got a good piece of trivia. The Jets defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, was the defensive coordinator for an 0-16 team, and he's got a chance to do it twice now with the Jets. He would be the only defensive coordinator to go 0-16 twice. Actually, any coach to go 0-16 twice in NFL history.
Was that Cleveland?
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And I've got a little bit of good news, I think, to start with that I was just talking to someone about. Apparently, a bunch of teams now, we don't know what's happening. You're hearing a lot of that there's no discussions at all going on between the NHL and the NHLPA.
Yep.
I'm not buying it at all. At all. And just because of things I've heard on other things. And I think that they're trying to keep it under the radar. I think they don't want this to be like a situation that gets blown out of proportion in the media. I think they have been talking, and proof to this may be that like 2 or 3 teams, the Blue Jackets are one of them, terminated like loan contracts to players and told them to come back, like players that were over in Europe.
Right.
When that happens, the Blue Jackets are a team they can't afford to do that unless they have something that they know is going to happen, right? This is a situation where they think that you're starting to see little things come out that there is an end to this whole thing in sight.
Well, let me provide some supporting information for that, because I listening to the 31 Thoughts podcast with Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick, Friedman said that Bill Daly was supposed to make a radio appearance in Toronto last week, and he canceled it like an hour before.
Yeah.
And the interpretation of that was he didn't want to sort of play out things in the media like they were played out with baseball, Russ, with Manfred and everything, press releases. This is a very sensitive situation. The players are pissed off. We know that they're pissed off. There's going to be some sort of negotiation going back and forth here, but I don't think they want to fight it out in the press. I think they want to fight it out privately and get it done privately.
Yeah, I think that's happening.
It'll get into the press though if it stalls again. That's the problem.
Right.
Well, the press is a tool, right, in this situation,
and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Someone from the player side will leak it before someone from the league, and if someone from the player side gets frustrated. If we're all of a sudden at Friday and they haven't, come to a conclusion or met in person, which is entirely possible,
right?
Then I think you'll still see some leaks.
Well, another thing that was interesting that Friedman mentioned was the fact that the thought is out there that training camps might be a lot shorter than they normally are, and that people think, because there probably won't be any exhibition games, or at most one, because
it's probably going to be one.
There are no fans, so they can't make money off those preseason games. And these players, according to we saw the thing from Aaron Portzline, but a lot of players and teams are skating already. So together already. So they're sort of ramping up for what they're getting ready for. Like guys like Joe Thornton are still over in Switzerland, but he can come over in a few days.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's definitely that is I completely agree. I think we're really looking at something that's going to get done pretty quickly. What
do you say pretty quickly? Because I don't think we're going to hear anything until Thursday or Friday, and I'm doubtful it gets done this week. I am.
Just the vibe I'm getting from people.
Just a gut feeling. Okay.
Yeah, you might be right, and logically, I would say you're right too. I would think the same way, but
if it gets done this week, January 1 is still possible.
Right, but even Funky's got a good point. Like players on the Red Wings, players on the other 6 teams that we talked about, they're going to be not even close to game shape if they haven't been playing somewhere, and that is not going to help them. It's going to impact them again on this season. Right. I would like to see there be some sort of resolution for them, because it really is unfair. It's already bad that they're not great teams, but to not start off on good footing really hurts them.
Those teams are getting screwed.
But you are seeing a lot of those teams finding ways to work out, not necessarily completely together. I mean, with these guys, it's really a matter of timing. It's a matter of a wind, getting certain things together. It's not a matter of, there's certain things that they can just do. They're hockey players.
They're veterans, but if you have a first-year player or a second-year player and they haven't been sent somewhere, they're going to struggle a bit.
They're going to struggle, and they're especially going to struggle with the speed of the game unless they get used to it a little bit more in practice. The speed of the game is, you can't just shift up into it. It's hard to just step up into it.
It would be like stepping up into the speed of a pickleball game.
All right. Check out Facebook if you're here.
No comments. I'm not making any
comments. No comments. That was funny. Right.
One other thing.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what they're going to be negotiating. Obviously, the owners are saying we need this to make things financially viable. I saw something. Was it Larry Brooks, Russ, that said something like get the $300 million from Seattle? Well, Seattle they're not paying a lump sum of $500 million.
Let Seattle front you the money. Like, it sounds decent, but you're right. They may not have that money up front. They may have their loans secured in such a way that it doesn't kick in even until then. So it's just a pipe dream, and it wasn't going to happen.
No, but the thing that again Friedman mentioned, that if I'm the players, this is something that I definitely would address with the owners. Okay, you need more revenue, so let's open revenue streams like advertising on jerseys, like expanding the playoffs, and that is what you get in terms of, well, we'll give you this, but you give us that, because then you're growing revenue. And I mean, I don't know, I don't care how much Bettman resists expanded playoffs. Expanded playoffs are good, especially when you have a 32-team league. Having 20 in the playoffs and having a play-in round is not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, okay, but here's the thing, and this is why we have two sides that always have a little bit of a disagreement. So it came out over the weekend. Someone named, it's just Sam, but she's Samantha, I don't know what her last name is, put out a thread, not a thread, but a piece of an article that appeared somewhere that NHL Enterprises Canada LP got $4 million from the Canadian government, from Alberta. Yeah. And that $4 million, what is that? Is it hockey-related revenue? Is it like, what is that?
That to me is what we talked about. We've been talking about for a long time. That is local area governments helping out their teams to keep them keep them there, basically to keep them alive. Like we're looking at a situation. It's bad even in some Canadian cities. It's not easy. Right?
I mean, don't you understand? Like from the players' side, they're like, hey. You got this $4 million, and this company called NHL Enterprises LP swallowed it up. Are we getting a portion of that? Like, are we?
I know that like the NBC contract or the Sportsnet contract or the TSN regional contract is hockey-related revenue. Is, say, for example, the Leafs radio contract or the Leafs local broadcast, are those hockey-related revenue?
Yeah,
I think they are. I know that they do know. They have. This is something they've really hammered out. Like there are issues that still the players don't have as much of as they'd like, which is things like parking or
and we know that expansion
and stuff like that. But almost everything else. I mean, this is something they really have hammered out a lot.
Yeah. No, actually, Progress Alberta is the place that did this report, but it does show that not all of it has been hammered out. Because when stuff like this gets leaked,
I mean, well, of course, there's always new things, but they, and then it usually goes to a committee. They meet together and they decide. But that is, I was talking to Tom Laidlaw about that the other day because I had the same exact question. I'm like, what is hockey related revenue? And that is something that they definitely, at first, there's no question when we first signed this deal to have a revenue share, that was a huge problem.
Yes,
but over time, that a lot of that has been hammered out. Not that they still can't have money. I'm not saying the NHL player team still can't hide money because I'm sure they can. I'm sure.
I'm not even talking about hiding money. I'm just saying, there's this instance where they got money from the Canadian government. There may be other instances in the future. Like those are the kinds of things you need to lock down. Otherwise, they cause arguments.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's get into some rumors, some more fun maybe than that.
Let's start with the one
you always love. But let's actually, and it's been going on forever, and we've had this discussion many times before.
Yes.
I'm glad to see that Mike has probably changed his opinion since then. The Nylander talk with the Flyers involving Sanheim, and this has continued on now. I wrote in my blog today. These teams are very much in communication, not like constantly, but this is something that I've gotten impressions from people on both sides that is there for them in a contingency world that they can go back to. They've discussed how this could possibly work, how this could possibly happen, even the extra pieces that might be involved, even some salary things that may be involved. And I get the definite concept here that, the Leafs aren't going to trade him right now. They're not going to, and they've been saying this. Dubas has been saying they're going in with their core right now, and they shouldn't because they have some good defensemen that they brought in. I love the kid that they're bringing in from the Russian league. And I think that they're going to have some really interesting defensemen. But if it doesn't work out well for them and their defense is still struggling, this is where they could go. Similar in a way to the Flyers, if they can't score goals, this is where they could go. So the idea of Nylander for Sanheim is definitely out there. Now,
so you're basically saying this is not going to happen in the offseason. This is something that will get talked about while the season's going on.
Yeah, I would say there's like a 10% chance this happens before the season starts. But I think that in that would only be if someone really pushed it, probably on Toronto's side to push it. But
and we think to precipitate this, you would have to have like Nolan Patrick not being able to play again.
Yep.
That would probably be the start of it. And then I mean, I don't know how this plays.
If it happens before the season, yes, that would be definitely
right. And then
for the season. If otherwise, though, you're looking at two weaknesses that both teams acknowledge and both teams are looking at.
Right.
And if they blow up, there's a place where the teams could go and perhaps fix that. Whether or not you think it's fair or not, or whether or not you think it's a good trade.
Somebody at the door, get the doorbell.
Okay, we're good. So, Mike, your thoughts on that?
I don't doubt the interest in Nylander from Philadelphia. By the way, this rumor has been longer rumored than the Luke Shen for Van Riemsdyk deal that eventually happened. But I don't.
It's the same kind of thing. Really feels a lot like that one, actually.
But I don't. With that one, I thought that they would happen, and it did. With this one, it doesn't make any sense. Because not to say Sanheim is not a good defenseman, because I like him a lot. I think he's a really good defenseman. But when you consider, and it always comes back to this act, they're strong on the left side.
Yeah,
Wiley, Muzzin,
right.
Dermott. They have a lot of left-hand shot defensemen, and it's possible this year they could have two lefties playing on the right side, which is not something that they want.
Yeah.
And Sanheim is a lefty. Now, if it was Philippe Myers, I would say, okay, that makes sense because he's cheap and he's big and he plays a tough game, and that would make a little bit of sense. But he's up for a new contract right now, and he hasn't signed yet. Yeah. And I don't think Myers in and of himself would be enough for Nylander. It would probably have to be some sort of package deal. But Sanheim for Nylander, it doesn't add up to me. It may be true. It just doesn't add up to me.
I do have breaking news for one of our free agents on the board.
Okay.
And Funky's going to hate it, but that's just the way, because I saw him already bitching about the guy. Ilya Kovalchuk. Uh-huh. He just put his house on the market in New Jersey. Now, I do have to comment about this house, but I think first thing is, if he's putting his house up in New Jersey, he's not coming back to New Jersey. We could pretty much, or the metro area, we could pretty much say that because he wouldn't put his house up.
Yeah.
He's selling it for $18 million. It's like a French chateau, but what it looks like happened here, Eck, is that they clear cut a part of the forest in northern Jersey. They built this house to look like a French chateau, but it's really a McMansion. And yeah, it's got some nice, not cobblestone, but it looks like cobblestone almost surrounding the place. But it looks so out of place because I'm not even sure he has neighbors. And now he's looking for $18 million for that. So I find that interesting because, again, if he is doing that, I don't think he plans on being anywhere close to this area. So I think you can count out all of those teams: New York, Philly, all those teams, New Jersey.
Maybe Tony Soprano is going to buy
it. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I think you can count those teams out too. I mean, I really do. And I think even if Kovalchuk might just be looking at the market and saying this is a good time to sell too. I mean, the reality is, if he's going to be here anywhere, he's going to be here maybe a year. So who knows? It's possible that he could still sign there. But I think
I'm going to say it's very minimal based on that, because I don't think he would go through the trouble of this if there was really a chance of that. But you're right. I mean, anything could happen. If you
an $18 million house is definitely an economic decision,
Yeah.
I mean, the question is
right now, and he's also he might very well be a Republican. He might be pro-Trump and think that Biden, seriously, Biden's economy could crash, and therefore he thinks he should sell more. That's what I'm thinking. That could be happening. Stuff like that. I know a couple people who are doing that.
There's that Russian connection to Trump. This is the thing. The only team in the New York area that makes sense for him is the Islanders because of the connection to Lou, and with the retirement of Johnny Boychuk, now they have the cap space. They're probably going to announce the signings of guys like Matt Martin and Corey Schneider and Andy Green pretty soon. And if he's willing to take a veteran minimum deal, then somebody will sign him, but I don't think he's willing to take a veteran minimum. I think he wants more money.
I think he wants more money too, and I think he feels like he can hold out for a little while and wait until the season starts even, and be one of those type of guys. But to finish off the Nylander thing, I'm with you, Mike, that I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense right now. I understand the Sanheim playing out of position thing, although I have seen him play both sides very effectively. He's the kind of guy who can play his off wing, as a defender very effectively. But still, I think that, it would make more sense with Myers in some ways. And I know but the Flyers are in a weird spot where they have the Sanheim Myers combo, which could be like a very potentially good combo for years to come if they keep them together. And that's causing them issues, in other ways and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot there still to play out. The whole point of it, though, that I think what you learn from it is, one, that, nothing is in stone, that, Dubas is going to sit there and say, oh, we're not going to move him, but they're still having these talks.
Well, I personally believe, and I believe this, I've said this the last 2 years, and I've been wrong, and I admit I'm wrong, but I'm not going to be wrong this time. This is the last year that William Nylander will be in Toronto. If they don't have any kind of if they lose in the first or second round, I think he will be the first of that core group that's traded because he's the most movable, and they can get what they need from trading him.
By far, he's the most movable.
Right now, they don't want to trade Marner. They don't want to trade Matthews. They don't want to trade Tavares.
They're not going to trade either of the first two. There's no way they would ever trade Marner or Matthews. I don't think at this point.
Right. So, but
I do have to do follow up on this house. So it's 8 beds, 11 baths, and 3 half baths. 11 bathrooms.
3 half baths. That's 14 bathrooms.
Well, I know, but they count it as 11 and a half for some reason.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But
man, that's a lot of bathrooms.
A lot of bathrooms.
A lot of bathrooms.
Man, he's so full
the price. The price
he's so full of crap that he needs 11 bathrooms.
The price is now down to $16 million. If anybody in the audience is
here, take $2 million. Yeah, I'll look into it. We can definitely afford it.
It's a house that you cut the price by $2 million, and it's still ridiculous.
Right.
He bought it for 4.5. So,
well,
he's trying to make a profit here, Mike.
Okay. Hockey. No.
He hasn't made enough money in his career.
That's a pretty damn good profit, honestly, isn't it? I mean, he bought it for 4.5.
If he can make it, he's already dropped $2 million off the price. So
yeah. Wow, that's pretty crazy. All right, other trade talk. Okay, Barzal and the Kings. Now, I wrote yesterday about Matthew Barzal and how it feels as if when you start hearing leaks about trade rumors with Barzal, at this point, it's almost like I've heard this before where these come out right before the guy signs his contract with a team. It's like they're right on the edge of getting a deal done.
Right. This is a scare tactic.
It's like the last thing that he wants to hear. Like, he's talking to his agent saying, okay, we're going to be able to have this stuff. We're going to get this done. And they say, but wait, they might be trying to trade you. So they're trying to get over the Islanders trying to get something small out of this and get him to just cave on it.
Well, I can say this probably for Lou Lamoriello, the timing of Boychuk's retirement, it was not good for his negotiating stance with Barzal because now all of a sudden he's got $9 million in cap space, and Barzal was probably saying, "Okay, give me my 6-year deal." And I'll bet you anything, the Islanders are trying to get Barzal to take the bridge deal like Sergachev took from Tampa Bay. And
I'll tell you this, not to cut you off. Sorry, Mike.
No, it's okay.
I feel like if he takes the bridge deal, they're going to lose him. It won't matter that they have a new place. If he doesn't get his deal here and he takes a bridge deal, I'm telling you, this guy's not coming back.
It's tomorrow. It's all over again.
It is. And the minute he hits the market, it's not like Anders Lee. There'll be a lot of suitors for him. A lot. Anders Lee didn't have a lot of suitors.
Part of this, though, and along what you're saying, Russ, it's very true, is that they are trying to see how serious he is about the Islanders too, and that definitely is
he's still there. Like,
I know, that definitely goes on, like, because if you sit in situations like this, they want to know by throwing out the trade rumors, by getting trade rumors out there, or by talking to other teams, you get an idea of how much he really cares if he stays an Islander or not. Right? And I think that that's part of the thinking when you're doing a bridge deal. You're trying to get the long-term concept of whether the guy wants to stay after the bridge deal. Now, that's really a hard thing to do, obviously, because the bridge, who knows what happens in those 3 years or whatever that he's there. That can change everything. But then today, it comes out that the Kings and Barzal actually were trying to work on an offer sheet concept, and that there is something possibly to that. And the Kings have serious interest in Barzal is okay going there, perhaps. So.
Well, the Kings have the young assets that they could trade to the Islanders. So they with Turcotte and Clegg and Velarde and all the young guys that they have. So I mean, it's a possibility, but this is the thing: if they sign Barzal to a 3-year bridge deal like Tampa signed Sergachev, then all Barzal does is go to arbitration after the 3 years, and then he's a UFA. And I'm telling you right now, if you think that the Islanders fans were raising a crap fit when it came to losing Tavares, if you lose Barzal on top of it, they'll be running with pitchforks and everything else.
Yeah, for this bridge deal, he's not going to build a house on the water. He's going to get a condo and he's going to wait it out.
Yeah, and you know, like you talked about, you know, what happened in Tampa. You know, we're starting to see RFAs sign these bridge deals, and that I think is going to have to happen based on the situation right now. And
look, he wants to play hockey, so it'll happen. But it's not a good thing for Islander fans if he signs a deal like this. I'm just telling you.
I mean, look at the Islanders' cap situation. Look at their roster on Cap Central. They've locked up everybody.
Yeah.
You know, Bailey, Eberle.
They have.
They've locked them up on 5, 6, 7-year deals. And if you're Barzal and then all of a sudden they're coming to you with a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal, I'm pissed off.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what it looks like. I'm going to tell you what it looks like to that player. What it looks like to that player, like what Mike just said, is somehow they had money for all these players, and now it comes my turn, and they don't have it for me.
Somehow they had money. Somehow there was no pandemic when they signed those guys. I mean, it's not like we're not talking about. There's an obvious reasoning. It's not like, you know, it's not rocket science to figure that one out.
Yeah, but you can structure a deal where they're not paying a lot of money out of the first couple of years.
You could do that,
and they may very well do that. But I think the situation here is a little more complicated than that. And I also think that he might be. You know, it's very possible that if him and the Kings were working on a possible, you know, offer sheet, that maybe he does want out of there. And maybe there is a trade that could be made. Now that
maybe he's toying with an offer sheet with the Kings to get the Islanders to give him a long-term deal.
Very, very possible that he wants to stay on the island and he just thinks that the Islanders will match anything. But tough game to play with Lou Lamoriello, because, you know, I don't know, Lou's very much not like the one man's our team type guy, you know.
No, and that's why I think he'll acquiesce and sign the RFA. But I think when Lou comes to talking to him for contract time, he's going to hit the same brick wall he hit with Tavares.
Yeah, same brick wall, exactly. I agree.
And it's not because either of them are a bad guy. It's because this is what happens when you don't sign your franchise players. It's hard to find one where a guy did this and signed a bridge deal that is the franchise player and actually stayed there and signed a deal after. There's not that many.
Yeah. No, well, because just mainly for the reason that before, you know, if a guy was a franchise player, you just weren't going to do it, right? Because so bridge deal hurts the Islanders, you know, as much as it hurts, you know, Barzal.
No, it doesn't.
No, I mean, I think what he means is it hurts them with their bargaining in the future.
Oh, yeah. He becomes a UFA after that, you know, so they're kind of in this spot.
Their long-term picture doesn't look secure.
They're not going to sign him to a 4-year deal. That would make him a UFA. It's either going to be 3 or it's going to be, you know, 2 or 3, or it's going to be longer. Because they're not going to walk him right to free agency. I'm sure that they're not getting any kind of. If he signs a 3-year deal, I will bet you that the model that the contract that they will model it all over is Braden Point, and Braden Point I think is making 6.5.
Yeah, they're going to give him 6.5 for 3 years.
That's 6.5. That's 6.5 in Tampa.
So but I still think because of the down market, he's going to get 6.5 for the 3 years here, and I think that's what he's going to get.
Yeah.
Right around that number.
I agree. I mean, and that's probably, you know, it might be like, you know, a 2-year deal, something like that too, I've heard, you know, which is like really, you know, that would really be checking. Because where is he now? How far away from free agency is he now? Is he from UFA? Barzal?
4 years.
4 years, right. So 3 years still gives them 1 more year of RFA.
But here's the other thing too, Ek. So again, we could say, yes, there's a pandemic now. But we don't know if they've ever had discussions before for when this time came, and then, you know, nobody just acted on it because they didn't have to. That's the other things that we never know about.
Well, I mean, the fact is there wasn't a pandemic last year, in the beginning of the year when all of this started, and they could have re-signed him at any point. You know, they had ability. So
that's basically what I'm saying. Yeah,
but that's Lou.
Obviously, something.
That's Lou.
I agree.
That's Lou's playbook, because that's what he did in Toronto with Nylander. Nylander was entering his final year. They could have signed him to an extension. He said, play out the year, and then he left, and that he left that up to Kyle Dubas, and that I think that essentially put the Leafs down the road of screwing them when it came to Marner and Matthews, is the fact that Nylander held out until the end of November, and then they basically capitulated and gave him almost $7 million. And that, I think, now with the Islanders, I mean, this is your best forward. And you're paying until he retired, you were paying Boychuk $6 million. You're paying Nick Leddy, who I think is close to being over the hill, $5.5 million. You're paying Andrew Ladd, who can't even play in the NHL, $5.5 million. How about either buying one of these guys out or doing something to get your best player under contract for a long time?
Well, here's the other thing. I mean, and this is Oliver Wahlstrom included. There's nobody that drafted in the last 3 years that's going to get close to what Barzal is capable of doing on the ice.
Right.
So if you do lose that player, it's not like you've already drafted one that could replace him and you say, all right, well, we have him. Like with Tavares gone, it was like, all right, well, we still have Barzal and they re-signed Lee. Fine. This is a different story, folks.
Yeah. And as talented as Barzal is, they bring up an interesting point in the chat room that he hasn't had a 25-plus goal season yet.
Because of the system he's playing under. You change that system, he'll have a lot more points than that.
Yeah, but, I mean, the Islanders, I mean, he hasn't – I guess he's always been under pretty much a defensive system.
Yeah. He's playing under Barry Trotz.
Yeah, no, right now he's playing under Barry Trotz for sure.
I mean, remember, he had 85 points when he wasn't with Barry Trotz.
Yeah. Yeah,
then it dropped to 62 and 60.
Yeah, I mean, you watch him; he's dominant out on the ice.
He'll be back to 85 points if he's not in that kind of system again. He was willing to play that kind of system because he wants to win a Stanley Cup, but he's not going to be willing to play that system if it's going to hurt his contract, and that's the other part of this thing.
Yeah, and that's maybe a bigger part. Maybe why LA looks a little more interesting.
Yeah,
because they're going to play a much more open fight. Out there. Let's get to some other. Let's go to the rumor chart a little bit today, because I did update a bunch of players on the rumor chart today, and wanted to get to that. So let me bring up some names here. We'll do this for the show. All right, so we're going to start with these guys. Our two favorites, like the stars that are left right now, that are really the best two players out there right now. And an interesting thing over the last few bits here has been the Mike Hoffman to Pittsburgh talk, which I picked up on over the last 3 or 4 days, as a place that again, Hoffman goes there for a year. The Penguins need something like this. I really think that I do think the Penguins could use this as a morale booster for them.
Well, okay, because I just looked up on Cap Central, the Penguins have $1.3 million in cap space.
Right.
So if he's going to Pittsburgh, this is like. There have been players who have gone for much less to basically get set up for a big contract, and maybe Hoffman goes and plays with Crosby and scores 40 goals, and then he goes and tries to get the big money. But he can get more money someplace else. I mean, the downside with Columbus is he's going to score 40 goals in Columbus? Probably not.
Yeah, and Columbus, I've heard that it's gone up and down on whether or not they're really interested in him or not. It seems like they are more interested in him now than they were, but they're
because of Nyquist.
Yeah, Nyquist has added to that, obviously. But I think that what Hoffman gets out of there, Mike. I mean, they would definitely have to clear some space. They're not going to get him for $1 million. But they could get him for maybe 4.5, maybe 4.5 to 5.
It would have to be in that range because he hasn't made a ton of money in his career, and he is known for being this type of player. And if he didn't have a great season, he's committing career suicide because it's not like the market's not robust for Hoffman, even if it's a good year. So now it's less robust. If I'm him, I'm taking term over this. I would stay away from this. Well, if I were his agent, that's what I would tell him to do too.
The talk is that Kasperi Kapanen is going to play on the top line with Crosby.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good fit. I think a guy like Hoffman would be a much better fit because he's much more of a scorer. But
more of a cycler too, like a cycling type player.
He is a cycler, but Kasperi Kapanen's a lot faster than Hoffman, and Pittsburgh may be looking to get faster on their top line.
That's true, but I think that with Crosby, that one thing that has worked best, like guys like Chris Kunitz and things like that, who have worked best with him are guys who can play like a dirty game as well.
Yeah.
can go low. And
Connor Sherry, Jake Gensel,
yeah, Crosby's goals are not necessarily, and Crosby points are not usually off the rush as much as most people would think. He's more a cycling guy.
Arguably one of the most effective wingers with Crosby besides Kunitz was Pascal Dupuis. He's not exactly
right. It just matters if you can Hoffman, create some space for Crosby, which is what you need, or Crosby creates space for Hoffman, either way, depending on how you look at it. It's tough to.
Let me ask you a more obvious question, and that is, why isn't a team like the Devils in on him? Just because they don't want to spend any more money?
Yeah, at this point, why aren't they?
Couldn't use scoring.
No, they could. And I don't know why they're not on him.
And he'd be a good guy to play with Hughes. Like if you want to
in the San Jose too. And I thought about San Jose as well, but I haven't been able to get any thought from San Jose. Obviously there's connections there with the coach in Florida, but all that stuff. But I think that I don't see any. I haven't been able to hear anything from New Jersey on him and anything from San Jose on him to this point.
I would doubt Buffalo simply because he right now would not have a top 6 position with the Sabres.
Yeah,
he would not play in their top 6. The top 6 right now is Eichel and Stahl at center, Skinner and Taylor Hall on the left side, and Sam Reinhart and Olofsson on the right side.
And it seems like Columbus is just willing to go into the season with what they've got. I don't think they're doing anything else.
Right.
As of now, yes. I think a lot of that depends on how the season is negotiated for them. Vatanen, on the other hand, and the team that's completely run is Calgary, and I think the Calgary is the other teams we talked about before with them.
Well, I think Calgary makes a lot of sense because obviously Hamonic, they didn't re-sign him. Brody went to Toronto. They do have a good top 3. With Hanifin and Giordano and Rasmus Anderson, and they added Tanev, but their bottom pairing is a little weak. Valimaki's coming off an ACL injury. Shillington is an RFA. So, he would improve the depth. They could move Tanev or move Anderson down to the bottom pairing if they added Vatanen. So that makes a lot of sense. But I don't think Florida makes if you look at Florida's depth chart on the blue line, they're 6 deep. I don't know where he plays.
They are, but I don't know that they're all going to be there. I'm not convinced still that Yandel's going to remain in Florida.
Okay, well, if they trade Yandel, then yes, they're then they're in the market for somebody. But right now, it's Ekblad, Yandel, Strawman, Uyghur, Nudavara, and Gudis.
Yeah, and I think
it's not great, but it's sitting there.
Some move. I think you're going to see some
better than it was.
They have to move one of those. They have to move Yandel for some scoring. Basically, they really. When you think of what they've lost scoring wise. They lost Dadanov. They're losing Hoffman. They're not a team, that can afford to lose that much scoring.
I agree with that. Although they have guys, I think Lundell will be there once his season ends, or if he has a parachute out, I think they're going to have him parachute out. Owen Tippett will probably make it this year, and he's got a hell of a shot. So they do have some where they can get some scoring back.
Well, I think you should look to Zito to do a little bit of what he did in Columbus, which is bringing guys like that and give them real significant roles.
You might as well. At this point,
it worked for them, and I think it could work. It could work here too. I think that's part of what was attractive to Florida for Zito. Yeah. Those type of players existed there.
But Yandel's got a no move clause, and he's 34 years old.
Yeah,
so those are 2 pretty tough hurdles to jump.
Yeah, they are. Unless you find.
And I think if Vatanen goes to Ottawa, he is literally going for the paycheck.
Yeah.
There's no other reason to go there.
Yeah, or short term to pick up some points and pick up some power play time. If he goes there, if Yandel's out and Vatanen's in, Vatanen becomes a power play guy for you, right?
But he wouldn't be the power play guy because they have Shabbat. He would be like the secondary power play guy.
I'm just bringing this up on
way better than he is.
I'm just bringing
Florida. Sorry, I was talking about Florida, but you were talking about Ottawa.
Oh, gotcha.
Right, got yeah, I agree with you on that. Ottawa, yeah. Sorry.
I'm just bringing this up from the chat because Kevin mentioned on Friday about, again, Tyler Johnson and Tampa situation after the Sergachev signing, that, they have some move that they have in their pocket that they wouldn't like to make, but that they will make. And he was drawing the conclusion it was Tyler Johnson, and that's all we've heard the last couple months. But again, Elliot Friedman said that the name out there is Alex Killorn. And
Yeah, I do. I've heard that a little bit too.
Yeah.
He's a Ports guy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think Kaloran brings them is easier to move than Johnson. They lose more than they lose with Johnson, obviously.
right.
Because Kaloran's contract is up soon too. So
Yeah.
He's got a couple years, I think.
Yeah.
And he's a real key player on their team. And, part of the whole concept of they got tougher and stronger, and that's what helped them win the Stanley Cup. Kaloran's really tied into that.
He's got 3 years left at $4.4 million. I mean, honestly, the reason here is that Johnson's contract, $5 million for 4 years, is immovable.
It's hard to move.
Do you have Hamonic on this list?
No, I don't. I'm not up top here now.
Okay. Because I am hearing rumors, and I'm not hearing them, I'm seeing them, and it's not. This has nothing to do with me, but I'm seeing on the net, Hamonic with the Oilers. It would make sense.
Yeah. I've heard him with Winnipeg and Edmonton, but I haven't. I haven't heard his name very often lately.
And it's Western Canada, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
I could see that happening.
A couple players here. Furleek, who has been really not mentioned too much.
Alan Walsh hasn't mentioned him, really?
Yeah. I've suddenly heard him. I've heard a lot of talk with him in Chicago. Seems like a Chicago type of move to me.
Well, he's been there before, so you probably could go there cheap. And it didn't work out for him in Calgary and Buffalo last year. He was horrific in Buffalo. Yeah.
Brassard, still the Islanders for sure. But the interesting thing is Vancouver's movement on Brassard lately. That I've heard that they are looking. No, they don't have a lot of space. We've talked about that as well.
Right.
But I guess he has some kind of connection out there too, doesn't he? Brassard, is he from that area? I was hearing something.
No, he's from Quebec, I believe.
Yeah, he's a Quebec guy.
Did he play juniors out there or something? I'm not sure. There's something, or I heard there was some connection to that team with him. I wasn't sure. Someone said it to me, and I was embarrassed to not know what it was.
Oh, okay.
Hoping you guys help me out there because he's there. Yeah, Brassard and his connection to Vancouver, that kind of thing.
I mean, he played in Drummondville. I don't know if there's anybody from Drummondville.
Yeah, I will have to figure that out. I'll find out for sure. I'll ask.
It's got to be something maybe on the coaching staff, whether it's
there's some kind of connection.
I'm looking. He played in Syracuse. I don't see anybody on the coaching staff from there.
Yeah. I mean, the Islanders are still obviously the place that he wants to play, and they want him. But the question is obviously very much tied up in Barzal and what happens next there. So if they can get him, if the Islanders can get him, they'll get him. The Bruins are an interesting one too. I think with him, I think he would make sense there as well.
I could see the Bruins going for Brassard.
Seems like a Bruin type player too.
Fourth line center, third line winger type of thing.
Well, we'll ignore Nylander for a second, just because we talked about that already. But Athanasiou, the rumors of him and the Islanders have been out there before.
Oh boy!
And at minimum, it would obviously be a really low number to go there.
Well, okay.
He's got to basically take a low number and go somewhere and prove he can do something.
The second team on the list would be more of a place that would roll the dice on him because I don't think they expect to win. It would be like an Anthony Duclair situation where Duclair went to Ottawa and lit it up, and now obviously we know the situation he's in right now, but there are opportunities there to play. Russ, I don't see Athanasiou and his sort of wanderlust type of game working with Barry Trotz.
No, I don't either.
This thing about Trotz though, in that, and before you, I mean, it's obviously not what you would think of with Trotz, but Trotz is one of those guys that plays the defensive style, but doesn't mind having like one or two of those type of guys on his team that are just pure offensive.
They still have to be able to play some defense.
Yeah. Maybe he thinks he could. Maybe the Trotz converted Ovechkin in his mind, so he can convert anybody. Maybe.
Well, Ovechkin is a little different than some of these other guys, but if that were the case, they would have converted Hosang, and they didn't even try.
Yeah. Yep. We talked about Barzal, but Anthony Duclair. There was a lot of talk, that he was going to just go back to Ottawa again, and now the word is that Edmonton's got a serious interest in him. I don't know how they would do it again. I'm not here trying to figure out their cap situations. I'm just reporting on what I hear. So,
well, I mean, it has to be on the promise that he's going to play either with McDavid or Draisaitl if Draisaitl is up the middle. I mean, otherwise, see, that's the thing. You're investing in yourself. It's sort of, and this is at a much lower scale, but a guy like Tyler Ennis went to Toronto on a veteran minimum deal, had a good year as a fourth liner, and turned it into another contract. He turned it into 2 contracts because then he went to Edmonton and he re-signed with them.
Right.
You do that for 1 year when you're young enough, like Duclair going to Edmonton, and the only way it pays off is if you're playing in their top 6. And on that team, I think it's possible that he plays on their top.
But you know what? Everybody makes excuses why they don't sign Duclair, and he could have 65 points with McDavid and still be in this situation next year. It wouldn't shock
because people will say it's a creation of McDavid.
Correct.
Apparently, he has been working out with McDavid. Someone just texted me, which I didn't know. That they are working out together in the same place in Arizona somewhere.
Where Matthews and McDavid worked out, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess Duclair was there with them. So, it's possible that McDavid went back and said, "I think this guy can play. I think we should bring him." I mean,
I think Jan Rutta's with them too. No, I'm kidding.
Duclair didn't. Duclair definitely can impress you with his skills.
I mean, look, there's nothing he can't do offensively on the ice, but for some reason, teams have repelled him and. Anytime I see him, he's effective as hell.
Yeah,
Russ Martin Marincin was there because they ran short of pylons.
A couple more names and we'll get out of here. Michael Granlund and Eric Haula. Granlund is one of the better scorers out there. Kind of like people are.
I don't know. He is fool's gold at this point. He really is.
He didn't do himself any favors in Nashville.
No, he definitely didn't. He definitely didn't for sure. But there are some people who still believe in him. I think.
I think Columbus makes the most sense because you could put him on a line with Koivu there on the third line, and there'd be some familiarity there that Yarmo with the Finnish connection. Maybe there's a. I don't see Buffalo. I don't see Vancouver because of cap reasons.
Yeah, Vancouver must have something else going on for them to be coming up in rumors all of a sudden. My thinking is, that they have perhaps gotten somebody to take that Eriksson contract off them, but that's within their main goal. And if we'll see what happens.
Or they found somebody to take Brandon Sutter or Pearson or one of the short-term, or Sven Barchi, one of the short-term guys.
Go ahead, Maris. 1 point in 4 playoff games. When I was in that locker room a couple of times around the Winter Classic time, he was as quiet as a church mouse in that locker room, man. And for the kind of player that he could have been, I'm not giving him much. I'm not.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't believe in him anymore.
Eric, and I was going to say before that was that I do think we're going to see once the plan is announced, we're going to see a big flurry of things. Flurry of trades, a flurry of
I can see that.
So I'm kind of it's kind of in a weird hurry up and wait rumor mode right now because I'm trying to get as much as I can from people, and everyone will talk, but nothing seems imminent because nothing's going to happen until that happens.
Well, I have a little game that we can play tomorrow. We can predict the restricted free agents, but if you look at the unsigned restricted free agents, and these are the guys like Barzal who don't have arbitration rights and can be offer sheeted. Blackwood of New Jersey, Dubois with Columbus, Barzal. There are five or six really big names that are not signed.
I know.
And, either they have a deal signed in a drawer somewhere, and they're just going to spring it when the season is cleared up, or they're still haggling. And if they're still haggling, that's not a good sign.
Here's the weird thing about Granlund. In his first 17 games last year, he had 4 points. Then when they came back and played in the bubble, he literally had 2 points in all of those games, which looks to be like another 10 games. There's nothing there. I'm telling you, there's a little something there, but I'm giving him $2 million or otherwise I'm telling him to hit the brakes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Agreed, very much so.
Finally, is a different story because I do think, there are teams that can use him. He's good on faceoffs. He plays some defense. I don't think Pittsburgh can afford him. I don't think Columbus would want him, but I don't know.
Again, Pittsburgh, it really feels like Rutherford is trying to do.
I mean, if he makes a move and gets Haula, that would be smart because I do think it's something that they're missing, but it's going to be hard for him to want to take whatever they offer him.
Yeah, although playing for Pittsburgh, there is a draw.
For him, it could be a plus. Because he's never really. He's had like one really good year. He's never done much more than that.
I see. I get the feeling, and maybe I'll be wrong, but I get the feeling that when whatever is announced is announced. I think you're right, Ek, that you're going to see a flurry of things. But I think a lot of teams are going to be bargain basement shopping, and a lot of these guys who we think are going to make $4 million, $3 million may end up taking a 1-year deal at $800,000 because they just want to find some place to play.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, like Broussard, I think is going to be one of the last guys signed. I do.
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. And I mean, mainly the Islanders have so much they have to do beyond him too. And if they have the impression, like Lou went to all these RFAs for sure and said, "Do you want to stay here?" And if they have the impression he really wants to stay here, then Lou will hold off on it because he'll tell the guy, I'm gonna give you at least this much. They'll have a deal already figured out. It's very possible that is the case with Broussard. I really think. Hold
on, there's some breaking news here. Now here's where I'm going to play dumb. It says that this is like coming from the Toronto Star. Bettman sprung the MOU. What is the MOU?
Something of understanding.
Memo of understanding.
Memo of understanding. Thank you.
Yeah. On the board of governors who unanimously endorsed it, it's believed some voted merely on Bettman's recommendation. Now, having subsequently read it after it passed, some are unhappy with it. This is not good news, Zach.
Memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, but that's fine. We were close enough.
But the deal they signed. Well,
see, this is the thing that I heard yesterday from Friedman and Merrick's podcast. The owners, some owners in the NHL are also owners in the NBA. They saw the collective bargaining agreement that basketball arranged with their players, saw that it was a much better deal negotiated than the NHL deal, and at that point got pissed off.
Yeah.
So
Kevin McGran wrote the article, so we know it's a good writer.
Very good writer.
This is like there's a lot of this is going to muddy it up now because now we know even people who signed the deal don't like the deal.
Part of that, though, it feels negotiation to me. Like it feels because whenever I hear something like that, I feel like, okay, if you're negotiating, you're like, I'm saying, well, listen, man, I would like to give you that, but already the owners don't like the deal we have in place. The owners don't love with that. So I want to dig more into it today and see what I can find. But that feels to me like a play a little bit.
Bettman has always operated with like the unanimous power of ownership behind him, and if he all of a sudden it seems like he's got feet of clay, and he doesn't have the support, then that
it does seem like his support has minimalized. Over this little break, and so I think you're right, Mike. I think everybody went with it like, we don't have much choice here. Let's sign this deal. But now that they've had plenty of time to look at it, now all of a sudden they don't like the deal.
Well, and suddenly if he says that, now the players are like, well, geez, we're trying to get more out of that deal. And now the owners don't already like what's there. So that could be a problem for us. That if I'm the player's side, that's because the owners have.
Well, it depends, Zach. See,
agreed to it. The owners have agreed to it. So that's not something that they can change from what I understand. It's not.
No. But I get what you're saying, where you would say, all right, the players might feel like that's an opening for them. The problem is if this is now split as to half the owners like what they signed, half don't, then just getting any other decision, meaning a change in this, could be nearly impossible.
Right. And remember
what the NHL wants. That's what the NHL wants. That's why the NHL
wants but that's not what the players want.
Right. And remember, we've heard over the last, I'd say, month or so, there are a sizable amount of owners who think it would be more beneficial if they don't play at all because their losses would be less.
Yeah, and again, that's negotiation stuff. So I do agree. I do agree that what they're going to try to do here is make
not what you wanted on a Monday. Let's put it this way: on a Monday of a week that you're hoping to hammer out an agreement.
No, it's not.
This is not what you want to start off that week.
No, unless you're looking at it to. You'd rather hear stuff like this than not hear stuff like this in some ways, as from our perspective, because we want to actually get this thing moving.
Because this is part of negotiation.
And this means that something is happening. That means that something has been discussed that the players have talked about that the owners don't like. And
here's more info on it, Ek. Not to interrupt, but this is actually very interesting, and it's something we've talked about, and it's worthy of kicking around again for a minute. Brand said it would probably cost each team at least around $150 million to operate without fans for a season, factoring in payrolls, travel, employees, league dues. It's believed some have told Bettman they would be financially better off not playing. Now, if that number is higher than like 4 or 5 than we think, which it might be from when they were having those meetings, then we've got a problem.
Right.
They knew, but they knew that before they agreed to the memorandum of understanding.
Oh, I don't know if they knew it would go.
They already knew what it would cost them to play with.
No, they knew it was possible, but I don't know if they believed it was really going to happen.
Like I said, when they signed that,
you know what I mean? There's a difference there.
I know what you're saying.
And that's not on Bettman. That's just life.
When they signed the CBA in July, they thought if the season started in November or December that there would be fans. Correct. And now we're starting in January, and they may not be fans until March or April.
And that's optimistic. Exactly. And that's the way the world is. So that changed. So now that changed, if there were 4 or 5 owners that didn't like the deal but just signed on with it, hoping that what Mike said was going to happen, now there might be like 10 or 12 that don't want to play.
Exactly.
I do agree that, and this is why I talked about last week. I talked about with the whole concept of luxury tax and stuff like that. There are teams that they're afraid are going to balk on this, and they have to come up with a way to get those teams money. So they're trying to figure out, a revenue sharing beyond what their normal revenue sharing is. And the owners of the NHL hate revenue sharing like everyone's business, So
and that's why advertising or expanded playoffs might be something that raises revenue.
I think expanded playoffs will be I think that's a definite. I think that's going to happen. I don't think there's any question about it. I think that has to be. It's easy. It's easy. It's obvious. It makes everybody wins. The players want it. The owners want it. Like I said, the only people who don't really want it are the purists, the NHL purists, whatever.
Gary Bettman doesn't.
Here's the other opinion. Sorry that Kevin said. So, back on the other deal, it took them 13 days from getting a deal to get the season going in the pandemic, right? So that they did that. But now he's saying it'll take longer for quarantine and everything, predicting similar timeline. He says a deal reached early January for a season starting early February and wrapping up late June. So if they don't get on it quick, we might see that 48-game season.
And I just thought of this, Russ, since everything is going to be inter-division, meaning you're going to play against the 6 or 7 teams in your division.
Yeah.
With Canada having a 14-day quarantine, you could see the U.S.-based teams start on earlier January and the Canadian team starting later because of the quarantine.
Yeah, it's possible.
True. That's definitely been discussed. I heard that for sure. That's definitely been discussed. Well, interesting stuff, guys. Thank you so much. And thanks for watching HockeyBuzzcast. We'll be back again tomorrow. So remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We